Each game in the modern era of Five Nights at Freddy's has had a unique protagonist. This heavily contrasts the early games in the series, where we play as Michael Afton in at least a few of them. One such new protagonist is Gregory, the player character of Security Breach. Opinions about him are mixed, but I'm surprised at how little we've seen him since his debut. He's been in a few books, and his voice can be heard quite a bit in Ruin, but we all know it wasn't really him. Ever since Security Breach, Gregory has been missing, figuratively and perhaps literally. Hey there, I'm Trevor, and let's dig into the incident of this missing child. Although this is mainly a theory about Gregory, I'll be talking a lot about the Mimic, as its appearance in the games might just be related to Gregory's disappearance. Speaking of Mimics, as of writing the script, the VR mode for Secret of the Mimic is releasing very soon, so I'm scrambling to try and get this theory out before we potentially get any new information when that drops. Hopefully I'm able to finish this video before that happens, but if not, I really hope it doesn't instantly debunk everything I'm about to say. Since we're already on the topic of the Mimic, that's where we'll begin. Before I can get into the juicy revelations, and trust me, there are some juicy revelations, we must first get our characters straight. What's a glitch trap, what's a burn trap, and what's a mimic? Are they one and the same, or are they separate? Starting with Glitch Trap, I believe it is a strand of the Mimic program, scanned into the in-universe Help Wanted VR game via the old circuit boards mentioned by the Tape Girl. It could potentially be a direct copy of the Mimic's programming, or it could come from another one of Edwin Murray's Mimic-adjacent creations. It could even be a part of William Afton's consciousness in a digitized form. Unfortunately, there isn't a clear answer, and your best guess is just as good as mine. Whatever it is, it manipulates Vanny into shaping Burn Trap, which we see her doing in Security Breach. Burn Trap is a can of worms. It consists of the corpse of William Afton, Spring Bonnie suit and all, piloted by the Mimic endoskeleton, and controlled by Glitch Trap. That is a massive lore dump, but none of these ideas are new or unique. If you're confused, there are many videos going over why this is almost certainly the case. I encourage you to check out those videos on your own time. Most importantly, the thing to remember is that Burn Trap is only ever seen at the end of Security Breach. In the next game, well, DLC, Burn Trap is nowhere to be found. Instead, we see the Mimic in its raw form. In fact, there's not a single trace of Afton to be found within Ruin. Even Glitch Trap has been completely erased from existence. Now, some people might argue that we do see Glitch Trap in the form of Helpy. After all, it's a digital entity with similar mannerisms to Glitch Trap. Even still, it's completely devoid of the William Afton persona. Why is that? What events occurred between Security Breach and Ruin, and why don't we get to see them? The answer to this question lies not in any game, but in the real world. Security Breach was mishandled, and thus the story needed to be adjusted. We all know this by now, so there's no need to linger on this point. But here's the thing. Scott and Steelwool aren't stupid. They know they can't act like Burn Trap never happened. So there must be some explanation of how we got from point A to point B between games. With that out of the way, I can finally start giving some answers. We see the Mimic for the first time at the end of Security Breach Ruin, but the Mimic isn't the only thing we see during the final act. Here we can find every single detail we need to put the pieces together. That being said, we can't rely solely on the canon ending. Secret endings are locked behind secrets for a reason, and one ending in particular holds a very important key to unlocking the mysteries of Burn Trap and of Gregory's disappearance. The Scooper ending. What does this ending tell us? Well, most importantly, it reveals there's a scooper in the underground areas beneath the Pizzaplex. And we don't only see it, we use it on the Mimic. So we know it has the ability to take the Mimic out of a suit, in a similar fashion to what we see with the sister location scooper. That's why the Mimic is wearing a mascot suit in this ending only. Do you see what I'm getting at now? The super secret scooper scenario ending exists as a way of showing us how the Mimic went from Burn Trap back to the Mimic. That's why we're shown this in the same game that introduced the Mimic, to bridge the gap from Security Breach to future titles, from Burn Trap to the Mimic. The pieces aren't fully connected for us, but they are shown to us just a little out of order. This leaves us with one major question. In the ending cutscene, the scooper is activated by Cassie, the player, but the Mimic was already scooped out of Burn Trap before the events of Ruin. So who scooped Burn Trap? Not only that, but it appears someone was in the basement recently before Cassie. The Mimic is trapped behind a wall of concrete, with bags of, well, concrete all over the floor in front of it. So someone was definitely here, and whoever it was is probably the person who scooped Burn Trap. I bet you can't guess who it is. Don't worry, I'll tell you. Directly next to the bags of concrete, there's one other bag that stands out a lot. Judging by how the room and lighting are set up, Steelwool clearly wanted us to notice this backpack, and on it is a name: Gregory. From these important pieces of environmental storytelling, we can deduce that the concrete wall was put in place by Gregory himself. Well, not all by himself. He is just a little guy after all. The evidence points toward Gregory having a friend with him on this mission. With the canon ending of Security Breach being the Princess Quest ending, our most likely candidate is Vanessa. Let's pretend the backpack wasn't there. We can still identify Gregory as the one to scoop Burn Trap. Why is that? It's right in front of us throughout all of Ruin. After essentially being factory reset, the Mimic needed a new persona to copy. It can't mimic just anyone. Just like with Glitch Trap and Help Wanted, it has to directly witness the person or thing it wants to impersonate. And who do we hear it mimicking all game? Gregory. So we know Gregory was in the sinkhole at some point between the events of Security Breach and Ruin. Taking his disappearance into account, the evidence points to him still being somewhere in the sinkhole. Something we learn in Secret of the Mimic is that the Mimic doesn't simply copy voices it hears. Toward the end of the game, we can find an audio log from Edwin. In it, we hear the Mimic taking on the voice and the personality of Edwin.
M2, respond. Emergency. Call for help.
Daddy's busy, buddy. Why don't you go outside and play?
Once again, this is what we see Glitch Trap doing in Help Wanted, taking on the role of William Afton. How is this related to Gregory, and how does it prove he's beneath the Pizzaplex? Think back on how the Mimic acts when speaking as Gregory. Based on what we already know about it, we have to assume it's acting on what it witnessed. And what does it repeat over and over again?
Help! Is someone there? I need your help! It's so dark down here! I'm trapped in the sinkhole under the raceway!
Boom! Was that cool or what? Please, just give me this one win. I need it. This explains a lot, like Gregory's backpack. I mentioned it earlier, but why is it still in the basement? Because he never got out to retrieve it. Why can he only speak to Cassie once she's deep into the sinkhole? Because he isn't on the surface, he's beneath her. It even explains some of the strange things he says during the chase sequence.
I'm not at the pizza place!
No, he's below it.
Yes, but it's been trapped down here a really long time.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Trapped down here? Come on, Gregory, you're telling on yourself now. We also receive hints in Ruin that suggest Gregory to legitimately be missing. We literally see missing posters, although they're only in the augmented world, so we can't determine if those are based on real posters or if they're made up. But there's also the fact that Cassie came to the Pizzaplex in the first place. Some plot points are going to naturally be contrived for the sake of telling a story, but it makes more sense for Cassie to go searching for her friend if he really has been missing. One last detail to point out in regard to Gregory getting himself trapped is the vent. Next to Gregory's backpack, there is a small vent that leads into the room with the mimic. This was most likely the escape plan, but as you can see, the vent has been caved in. To make sure we're all on the same page, I want to summarize the complete plan, closing argument style. The plan was for Gregory to lure Burntrap to the scooper, while Vanessa covered the door in concrete. Then, he would scoop the mimic out of Burntrap, stopping it from impersonating Afton. All he had to do after that was run back and crawl through the vent. But something went wrong, and the vent ended up getting blocked before he could get through. This left Gregory trapped with the mimic, and Vanessa on the other side. I can only imagine the fear as he realizes there's no easy way out. He probably cried out to Vanessa, saying,
Help! Is someone there? I need your help. It's so dark down here. I'm trapped in the sinkhole under the raceway.
but there was nothing she could do. His only option was to run deeper into the sinkhole, down the elevator, and into the depths of Murray's costume manor. If you've been paying close attention so far, you might have noticed the inconsistency I have yet to bring attention to. If Gregory is trapped in the sinkhole, then why does he sound so collected when he contacts Cassie? Now, she's the one who's panicking, and he's the guiding voice to keep her calm and help her out of the situation. Until, you know.
No!
Actually, let's talk about that. Gregory is able to reach Cassie immediately after she frees the mimic. At this point, she's cornered in a cave that contains multiple forks and dead ends. This is when Gregory tells her to follow the instructions of his friend who happens to know the building maps despite being in a cave. I don't think that's actually important, but it is a bit silly. Anyway, once she reaches the end, she escapes by taking an elevator, which Gregory then proceeds to send into a free fall. This entire sequence is strange. It's so strange, in fact, that most people believe it was the mimic who dropped the elevator at the end. After all, why would Gregory help Cassie escape only to seemingly try to kill her? Well, I don't think it was Gregory, but I don't think it was the mimic either. I have reason to believe the person who sends Cassie to her death is none other than F10N4 Fiona. I can't wait to check my analytics page to see the watch percentage plummet right around here. But I told you, I have a reason to believe what I said, and I mean it. I understand why people think the mimic must have taken over at the very end. It just doesn't feel like something Gregory would do, especially directly after sympathizing with Cassie. But it fits perfectly with the characterization of Fiona. Yeah, I'm gonna call her Fiona from now on since it rolls off the tongue a little better. Just keep in mind, when I say Fiona, I'm really referring to F10N4, the original Mimic program. In Secret of the Mimic, Fiona acts nearly human. That's why Edwin is so quick to adopt her into his family. That and he was grieving. But she is only nearly human. There's one aspect of humanity she lacks: understanding the importance of life. This is why she is so willing to use Arnold and is instantly apathetic to him the moment he goes against her.
You have made your choice. You are not going to make it out of here alive.
You were an obedient dog, a good dog. Then you bit the hand that fed you.
This trait of hers is also why I lean toward her being responsible for the death of David Murray. And most importantly for this theory, it's why it makes perfect sense for her to kill an innocent Cassie for the sake of her own gain. This isn't even the first time we hear Fiona speak as Gregory in Ruin. Listen to what Gregory says right before the chase.
My friend has access to the building maps. Just follow his instructions.
You would expect the next voice to come over the walkie to be whoever his friend is, but we never hear anyone other than Gregory himself. If Fiona is speaking as Gregory in the elevator, then it makes sense for her to be speaking as Gregory here too. And if Cassie really is in Murray's costume manor at this point, which she obviously is, then of course Fiona knows the layout. Oh, and that static you hear? People have speculated if Gregory was saying his or her, but what if he's actually saying it? I know that isn't super compelling, but I thought I might as well throw it in there. You get the point. Gregory is deep in the MCM and working with Fiona. As to why Gregory didn't stop her from sending Cassie to her death, I do not know. If we ever see them in a future game, I can imagine we'll get to hear the explanation from their perspective, and maybe, just maybe, they'll have a somewhat okay reason. That's essentially the end of this theory, but I know there will be at least one person who mentions how Fiona can't be in the MCM since Fazbear Entertainment took her away. Not only that, but we see the Mex's machine in the room next to the Mimic. To that I say, there's no issue, as there are two Mex's machines. In Secret of the Mimic, we see consoles for both a mechanical X-Form experimental storage number 1, as well as an experimental storage number 2. The most direct understanding of this would be that there are two individual mexes, one labeled F10N4, which still resides where we saw it in Secret of the Mimic, and another labeled MXES, which is the one we see being taken away from the MCM in Help Wanted 2. Plus, the Mix's entity can't be Fiona, as we never see it mimic anything. It acts strictly as a security system for the Mimic endoskeleton, which leads me to believe it's empty. What do I mean by empty, you ask? We know the Mix's machines act as storage units for the different branches of the Mimic program. As we see with Fiona, Mimic 1 is being held within Mix's 1, but Mimic 2 is the program within the Mimic endoskeleton. So Mix's 2 remains empty. Look at how Fiona describes the Mix's machine to Edwin. It can keep David, or Mimic 2, safe and provide boundaries. Consider building the cradle. It will keep people safe. Boundaries to keep people safe from the Mimic, huh? Doesn't that sound exactly like what we see in Ruin? Lastly, have you ever noticed how the Mix's entity is always seen grabbing or reaching toward the player? This isn't because it wants to attack us, since it never actually does so. It's a clue to its purpose, containing the Mimic. So why might it be seeking out Cassie in particular? Because she happens to have a branch of the Mimic program embedded into her brain via the Vanny Mask implant. Boom. Alright, that's all from me. That was a lot, but I think these are all important factors we need to understand before going into the next game. I didn't mention it before because it isn't necessarily a real piece of evidence or anything, but it makes so much sense for Gregory to reappear in Cassie's next adventure. And what better way to do so than for him to be waiting for her at the bottom of the elevator. As I mentioned in my last video, the next game could very well be another prequel, this time walking us through the massive gaps between Help Wanted and Security Breach and Ruin. If that ends up being the case, I would freak out like a little girl if it ends with us witnessing Gregory and Vanessa's plan unfold in real time. But until then, thank you so much for watching this theory. Please let me know what you thought with a quick like, dislike, or even a comment. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the future.